Hey everybody, it's Jeff, and here's what I did today on Workbench, where I stream my open source innovation work on Twitch. So I came back to the TreeView prototype, you may remember, which has been re-implemented in my Go UI framework. It really doesn't behave any differently. This was kind of a long stream today, and ultimately it doesn't really do anything differently. However, I re-implemented it to handle a more React-like data model where we store authoritative state of the tree in the Go with the component, load and save there, in this case, again, to local storage, and then push that state to the jQuery component. So I wasted a ton of time just trying to find a way to reset this data. It should have been obvious in hindsight. I spent a lot of time just trying to recreate the element and rerun the initialization, because that's how I had it set up, where it had the element, the template for the component was an empty element and then a script tag that runs the JS tree jQuery initialization. But that included the data to load. But it really didn't like this. It really didn't like blowing it away and then recreating it. I just couldn't. It seemed like it should work, but I just couldn't get it to work. I guess eventually I figured out that I could put that element that it would populate with the tree outside of the component, because then it's not blowing it away every time it needs to update or change. And then remove the template altogether, so I don't even have it anymore, and instead just replaced it with some JavaScript code that would serialize all the nodes and then set it in the data and then call refresh. So basically calling some JavaScript. It seems really obvious in hindsight. I don't know why I didn't do it this way before, probably just because I was iterating from the implementation that I had. So then I had to hook up any changes that happen in JS tree, because anything like moving stuff around, like, oh, this interaction is great, I don't want to re-implement that in Go. So keeping that, letting JS tree take care of that is fine, but I need to change the state to represent those changes. So anytime you delete a node or rename a node, we listen on those events like we did before, which was mostly to then persist the changes. But here we listen on those and then make the changes to the internal data structure of nodes. And then we call save, which again, this does some local storage stuff. And now all the initialization happens in Go in mount and loading from local storage and stuff like that. And then it re-renders. And again, re-rendering now is really just calling refresh, and so it doesn't even generate a template. It returns nil, which should return a no script tag. And then lastly, I got that local storage stuff working. And so the end result is, I can use it, I can refresh the page, it loads what I had before. It doesn't really do anything different, but now I have control over those nodes in Go, and I can store any extra data on them or references, instead of hacking JS tree and doing that stuff in JavaScript and trying to keep that extra data on the nodes of the JS tree model. So, kind of in the weeds, dealing with web development stuff that isn't necessarily specific to this UI framework, but it was interesting to kind of go through this experience with it. Anyway, that's it for now. Let me know if you have thoughts or questions in the comments, and subscribe if you'd like to keep following along, or join me on Twitch Tuesdays and Thursdays. Thanks for watching. Bye.